On this show, we've talked about cases of missing people, gruesome unsolved murders, and mysterious phone numbers, just to name a few. This case begins with a haunting fictional tale that intertwines all three. But what happens when fiction spills over into reality? Today, we explore the narrative and background behind the story of Boothworld Industries. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the supernatural. I am your resident mystery enthusiast, tasting and wanting and desiring the proof of aliens and ghosts and everything in between. Trevor Collins, joining me, hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
What about ghost aliens?
Oh, okay, now we're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, by the way, I said tasting, but if ghost aliens are on the menu, I'm tasting.
I'm not trying to taste anything that comes out of an alien or a ghost, I'll be honest. I don't think I need to taste what ectoplasm tastes like or some kind of alien juice.
Oh, man, alien juices?
I don't need no alien juices. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Although, maybe I could be persuaded, depending on what the alien looks like. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So it all comes down to its corporeal tentacles and, mind-touching abilities?
It depends. Look, all right, I've said it before, and I'll say it again.
Mm-hmm.
You put an alien, a good-looking alien, in front of the task force at large, half the task force is folding, 100%.
2/3, baby. I mean, this is a majority system that we are all collapsing to our knees.
They go fold at the seams, and it's going down.
Right. If a curvy alien comes stepping off that platform and they say, take me to your leader,
no.
I say, yes, please.
I'm the leader. It's me.
I can be your leader. So listen, this one is going to be an interesting episode. We've talked about, as I said, all sorts of topics, a lot of unsolved mysteries, a lot of true crime, and a few things like ARGs, things that kind of are those internet mysteries that involve these creepy, mysterious phone numbers. And this one's kind of interesting because its background is in creepypasta, which is, we'll kind of talk about all this, but like fictional stories. But then it really leaps into the real world. So it's a story that is kind of based on reality, that touches on primal fears, and also started to impact people in a real way. So I thought this was a perfect way, the long-awaited topic of creepypastas, the task force has been wanting it. I felt this was the best topic in that arena to kind of explore. We stretched our legs into the ghost and aliens and cryptid sphere.
Right.
Now we're firmly in the creepypasta arena.
I like how you nestled it right between October, which is Halloween, but then also before December, the holidays, you know what I'm saying? And the internet's a scary place.
Yeah, well.
But you know what's not scary on the internet?
What's that?
Our November merch drop at store.rooster@store.redwebpod.com.
You almost got the old link out there. We can leave that in.
I know. I only got the old link, dude. It's that surprised me. It's in there somewhere still. I was like, oh my God. That just came out of nowhere.
They rattle around in there. Store.redwebpod.com. True.
If you're a Patreon Elite member tier and above, you get a 15% discount, by the way.
That's true. It is the season of giving, and therefore we give the creepypasta, we give the discounts, and you get this lovely merch. And let me tell you, we are giving hard in December. And by the way, I have to say this and interrupt myself. You said nestled safely between, and I started thinking about the thighs of a beautiful alien.
Yeah.
You've got that stamped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
But what we will also give you in December is just daily ad-free content, because when we went independent, right, Fredo, we started the Patreon, we started putting out these ad-free versions of Red Web so you can explore and enjoy without any sort of interruptions.
Mm-hmm.
But that means our entire backlog is not without the ads. Therefore, in December, we're doing a gift-miss. Everybody on Patreon will be getting daily drops, plus a few new episodes on Mondays, right, of older episodes ad-free. It will be a shotgun blast, Van Meter visitor style of all of our kind of old favorites from the very beginning all the way up through episode 200. So if you want to join Patreon, now is the best time to do that. Future Trevor stepping in just for a second because this is hot off the presses. Right now, this week only, from November 25th to midnight on December 1st, you can get 20% off your first month over on our Patreon. Go to redwebpod.com or patreon.com/redweb to get that discount with code StealthWeek. Again, that's code StealthWeek over at redwebpod.com. 20% off the first month. Lots coming in December, as I'm probably talking about. But seriously, now is the time to jump on board. Test out our membership, check out Movie Club, check out Discord events, all that good stuff. And speaking of Patreon, as always, I want to give a huge shout out, a little bit longer of a list because you guys have been so wonderful this season. So some shout outs to our Patreon members, including Micah Aguirre, Starpilot94, Scootrix, Heather Stalkup, TGYK94, Chase Martinez, Brett O'Mura, and Mitch W. Thank you for being our squonks and our buff minds of the science squad and everything in between. You guys are awesome. Again, patreon.com/redweb if you want to indulge in all that holiday gift miss goodness. But with that said, Fredo, let me take you all the way back to 2013, April 19th to be exact. A user called Boothworld posted a story onto the subreddit known as No Sleep. Now, No Sleep is a subreddit we've talked about many times before in the past. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the places I would go late after hours when I didn't want to go to bed and I wanted to read a creepy story. It's a place where users share their own scary stories. The origins are a little bit different because in the early days, the Wild West of No Sleep, a lot of people would claim that these were their actual encounters. But as it developed, it became a place for people to write their actual stories. So it was knowingly fiction, but commenters were meant to reply in character as if it were real. Now, despite creepypastas being fictional, that kind of robs this story of its mystery and intrigue sometimes. What makes this one different and what makes it so intriguing is that the title for this story is actually a phone number, and this phone number began calling people and people began experiencing real fear. We'll talk about all of that after I explore the story. Now, of course, as with any story, this one's going to be easily found, so I'm going to give you the full phone number. But as with any phone number, be mindful when you give your information out. When you go to websites, when you call things, you know, the old caveat there, task force. But the number is 630-296-7538. The west side of Chicago will probably recognize that area code.
Yeah, don't call that. There's just no need.
We'll do the research here.
Yeah, if for some reason, I guess if you really have to, I mean, Google number, right? That's still a thing.
Yeah, get a VoIP.
Yeah. I'm interested to know how it's calling people, but then I guess if it's on a site, the site might have your phone number.
Interesting questions we'll have to explore. In this story, the writer is asking for help after receiving a strange phone call, initially believing this caller to be their plumber. They moved into a house, they're waiting for things to be remodeled, etc. Now, upon picking up the phone, the writer hears, without them saying anything, quote,
"Welcome to Boothworld Industries. My name is Samantha, and I will be your operator today. Name?"
The writer then gives their name, again expecting this to be their scheduled plumber, though in response, the operator indicates something strange.
"Yes, we already know your name."
They need the name of someone else, and it can't be made up, and it can't be a stranger, someone that you know personally, and that's the name that you have to use. And the writer remarks at their confusion. They ask what this might be used for, and she says one word.
"Remodeling."
So let me stop here and ask you, Fredo, if you received a strange phone call, you and I are probably programmed to never call or answer phones.
No, you could text me.
Yeah, text. But assuming you answer this, and they start saying, "Hi, Alfredo Diaz, we know who you are, and we need a name from you." And they say it's for remodeling.
Okay.
What's your move?
If my name is the person's name is Christian.
Say again. Sorry.
You just woke him up.
There he is. I don't know. I would just give a random name of a childhood friend that I have not seen in a million years. I have no clue.
Childhood friend?
I don't know. Like I'm panicking. You know what I'm saying?
True. I mean, I'm going pass, hang up. There is an out here.
I mean, yeah, there is. I could just hang up. I mean, I would probably give a random name of someone I don't know, and then just see what the hell the response is.
Dude, that's a good point. If they say it can't be someone you don't know, and you go, John Stevens, and they go, "We know you don't know John."
I mean, John Stevens sounds made up as all hell.
Oh, come on. Come on. That is a real human name.
There's one John Stevens in the task force going like, "Oh, it's me. I'm on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was the attractive alien I dreamed about. She came down. She said, "My name is John Stevens," and I said, "I believe it."
Yeah, I believe it, and I don't even need to know what your name is.
I'll call you whatever you want.
Whatever you want, I'm here. Yeah, I would try to take a shot at a random name.
Okay.
It kind of reminds me like a year ago, I had someone call and be like, "Oh, like you owe such and such to the IRS, and like, you know, we need this information." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's totally fine. Like, let me get my lawyer involved first." And there's like, "No, there's no need." I'm like, "Nah, let me just talk to a lawyer first," and then hung up.
Good move. Because first of all, yeah, you're going to get an accountant or a lawyer or something because it's got to be real. And second of all, if they get a little scary and they run off, probably a scam.
They just straight up hung up.
Dang.
I was like, okay.
That's spooky. All right, so they now know that this name is for something called remodeling. And again, in his mindset, he's like, well, I'm going through some construction here at my new place, so whatever. I don't know. Here's a name. So the writer asks if this is the plumber, and the operator starts from the top again.
Welcome to Boothworld Industries. My name is Samantha, and I will be your operator today. Name.
The writer assumes that this is indeed the plumber, maybe being weird about this for some reason, and then of all things, plucks his ex-girlfriend's name out of the air and gives it to the operator.
Damn, that's cold.
That's very cold.
Oh, damn.
And I'm like, is this some sort of referral program? Like, do you think her house needs a wall taken down or put up? So the operator confirms the name and indicates, quote,
Remodeling is scheduled for August 21st, 2015. Would you like to reschedule?
So after some back and forth on the confusion of the scheduled appointment and initially believing this to be a prank, the writer asks something more timely, says, hey, can you do something maybe today? Because whatever about my ex-girlfriend here, I just need the plumber here now. For some reason in their head, they're kind of going back and forth on, is this a prank? Is this real? This is strange, whatever. It must be the plumber. Get over here today at 3 p.m. The operator confirms and welcomes the writer to the club and offers a courtesy call before a strange dissonant chord plays twice and the line goes dead. The writer continues about their day until about 3 p.m. on the dot. He answers the phone, it rings once again, and it's Samantha. She says the appointment has already concluded, but the writer can hear his ex-girlfriend's voice in the background. And then you hear, very creepily, some rustling clothes, some wheezing sounds, and then the line goes quiet. And Samantha comes in with,
The scheduled work has been completed.
so we're left to assume that this remodeling, or whatever it might be, is a scheduled ending to someone's life.
I feel like it's like code name for a hitman that you accidentally like signed up for.
I'm telling you, Christian, this man's psychic ability, 10 out of 10 still.
This is nuts, man. You accidentally just signed off someone's death warrant and it's a hitman.
Dude, this is so weird. It's so heebie-jeebies.
I don't like it.
No.
I don't like it at all.
And the way he kind of fell backwards into it too.
Yeah, it just, it's gross. And it's like someone or something with power to be able to just like find and get this person off of a name. You know what I mean? It's also kind of terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like, this is what, 2013 you're saying?
Yes, this is when the post happened.
Yeah, I feel like 10 years from now, we're going to have issues with like AI doing calls like this or something.
Dude, yeah.
And then not knowing if someone's like real or not. I feel like I'm going to have to like, I don't know, have some kind of way to verify it's a human. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm going to sound like a wild person because like in 10 years when AI is giving us like all these like advertisement calls, I'm going to have to be there and be like, say sausage so I know you're not AI. Like something.
Honestly, like a few years ago, that would sound strange, but it's becoming more apparent that you need some sort of verbal password between you and your loved ones to make sure that their voices aren't being cloned by something to scam you.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
Because you can clone a voice and you can clone a number and they could look like it's coming from your parent or whatever.
Yeah. Who's to say we're not just, this episode itself isn't just 3 AI versions of ourselves talking to each other?
Dude, have you heard some of those AI podcasts?
Oh, of course, it's an AI podcast. No, I haven't.
Dude, so this is a whole tangent, but you cracked it open and this is the podcast, so we're in it now. But somebody uploaded literally like the word poop over and over and over and over and uploaded it. I think it was Google. Christian, maybe you can help me check that out. And then it has a masculine voice and a feminine voice as they kind of banter with one another and drive into the conversation. And so the idea is you can upload like an outline or something that you're trying to study, And instead of reading about it to learn about it, you can listen to a podcast version of it, talk about it, and break it down for you. And honestly, maybe we're only hearing the winners because it sounds pretty good. And the way they made a 9-minute conversation about just the word poop for 9 pages straight. And they're even like talking about that. They're like, listen, I don't know if this is some sort of like philosophy or like philosophical exploration here, but it's just 9 pages of sheer unhinged poop. You know, it just says poop, poop, poop.
Ridiculous.
And that's what they say.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's entertaining for now.
Right.
And then we'll see where it goes.
Right. To your point, bringing it back to the story, though, you're getting called. If you hear your partner or someone that you know and love, hear their voice coming out of the phone, especially if they know things they shouldn't. I mean, so that's where some of these stories start to really scratch at these primal itches, that uncanny valley of you didn't think it was possible. Just look at normal base level society. Ignore the internet, ignore all that. Just people in a cave, you know, hanging around a fire. And then you think of like where we're at now. There's so many more avenues for fear and being unsettled. In this story, and we'll kind of get into it, but this story kind of scratches at some of that.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Christian shared that exact little podcast clip from its Notebook LM. We can listen to that later and maybe have you react to it.
Yeah, they reacted to a document. Somebody had pasted the words poop and fart 1,000 times. And it's a 9.5-minute AI podcast of them talking about this 1,000-word document of poop and fart. That's insane.
God. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. And I think there's going to be some metadata tags that stamp things as human and not, depending on where laws go, depending on where, you know, regulation goes.
Right.
But bringing it back to the story, though, because I'm with you. In 10 years or less, there's a whole new avenue for fear. Now, this remodeling, as I indicated, is assumed to be, it's very heavily indicated, some sort of way to murder somebody. And what's even more eerie is that the writer seemingly knows this, because when the operator asks him,
Would you like to schedule another remodel?
he seems to perk up. He says yes, and he gives another name. They then ask if next Thursday would work, just something again in the near future, to which the operator indicates that that would not work, as the writer himself has been scheduled for remodeling Wednesday night. So now the writer is panicked. They're thinking, wait, I've been scheduled for a remodel, but who knows me that has been part of this that has... So now he's roped into the system, and he asks to reschedule his own remodeling, and then the voice on the other line, this Samantha, becomes a little bit more sinister, indicating,
There's always a way.
well, what's the way?
Invite new members into the club, of course. 1,000 new members to be specific by Wednesday evening.
So he has less than a week to get 1,000 people to call this phone number, and this leaves us where we began. The writer is desperate for help, though he believes he's helpless. He's inviting all the readers on No Sleep to join the club by calling the number in the title. And this is also why, not that this is real, but this is also why I told you, you got to be careful with these numbers you're dialing, you know?
You gotta be careful. This is like an elaborate horror like email scheme where it's like, you know, send this to X amount of people or you'll have bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
And now it just seems like it's some kind of like terrible plague horror pyramid scheme.
Yeah, where no one wins.
No one wins and it just keeps spreading and you're just trying to buy time.
Yeah. And so that's the story, and I want to explore some of the investigation after that, before we then open up into some of the community reactions, because it gets really interesting. Again, I don't want to disarm this story by continuing to say it's fiction, because what's so interesting about this story is how it proliferated through the community and then kind of evolved from there. So, coming back to the comments of this story, users in these comments claimed that they called the number and they received answers. But of course, this could all be made up, right? The rules of engagement in this No Sleep subreddit are to lift the veil and play in character. There was one comment, Reddit user Zombie Kitten, who reported what they heard on the phone was, quote, "Welcome to Boothworld Industries. Your number has been logged and scheduled for remodeling." Kind of spreading the fear in a new way. I think this is a really interesting story with some fresh, interesting angles, and maybe this is a way to almost 4DX this story, is kind of where it is starting.
They done messed up by calling because now they're on the list.
Right. Real or not, you're on this list, you're going to get yourself remodeled. Now, pretty quickly, Redditors found another mention of this number on Tumblr from a user, I Am Bloodworth. And upon further investigation, there was a person named Christopher Bloodworth behind this. And they also noted that Bloodworth was an anagram for Boothworld. Today, if you look back on this story, you can see that Bloodworth became a horror writer for a short time, though is no longer active. Now, while this story lives on a forum where disbelief is often suspended and many writers craft fiction, what stood out the most to readers was the real telephone number. This, as you like to say, Fredo, this very tangible piece to the story. And when called, it actually picked up, it would interact with you. But what really started to unsettle readers was the fact that this number began calling people directly. And not always just people that called them. We'll get into that, but sometimes it would find people in the vicinity to call, people that weren't directly involved. Now, if you answered one of these calls, it would indicate that your number, like I said, was logged and scheduled for remodeling. Some people even said that they got, quote, "You have reached Boothworld Industries. Your number has been logged and traced. A service representative will be with you shortly for remodeling. We at Boothworld Industries say thanks. You have a marvelous day." The last two sentences here are directly from the story, and so it does feel like there's a tangible element here, but what I think starts to cross into that real world terror is the idea of having your number be traced.
Yeah, I feel like best case scenario, you're a part of some type of like cold calling list that's just super annoying. You know, and you're just gonna get a bunch of spam phone calls.
Yeah.
So at the very least, you're walking out of this probably annoyed as all hell.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, unless you know about the story, I mean, honestly, even if you know about the story, I feel like I would hate to get this call. I'd be like, I'm traced. Nowadays, right? 2013 me would be like, this is a little heebly-jeebly.
Right.
But now, like, you know what's interesting is with Movie Club, we've explored movies from various decades, and it's now dawned on me that horror itself very vividly changes even within the decades. And so we talk about something like Final Destination, we talk about something like The Ring, which will kind of connect to this mystery. And they're of their time, or Pulse, that's an even better example.
Yeah.
With the internet coming online, you see the ripple effects of new technology and media. So as some horror begins to soften, other horror begins to rise and become fresh and new. And so in 2013, this feels very much of that time, but now we're kind of like, yeah, this just feels annoying, whatever. But at the time, people are genuinely starting to go, I'm scared. Like this, I am beyond this. Like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we'll talk about some of people's exploration with this phone number before then getting into some of the real world reactions. And then some of the stories that either kind of fueled this or some of the other related stories that have some actual real world nonfiction to them.
Yeah, the thing is that like people can just take something that's a story like this and then make it real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could be something that was just kind of like, oh, it's harmless, it's a story, and then it could turn into something tangible and nefarious.
Yeah. So in brief, I want to cover some of the YouTubers and other Redditors who have explored this phone number, because for a few years, it kind of became a challenge, air quotes, one of those things that people online just kind of did as a fun thing, whether it be for entertainment or to kind of like push the unknown, which just tells me that if aliens do come to play or ghosts or whatever, or like The Ring, there's a cursed tape, of course that's going to become a challenge. People are just going to be like, I watched the cursed tape. And then they just wind up dead.
Right. I mean, look, there was a challenge to like eat Tide Pods, you know?
Dude.
I just don't feel like, I don't think a lot of us are equipped to handle such responsibilities that could possibly fall into one's lap.
We're still just cavemen at the end of the day. We just got phones with it.
Yep.
This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shopify. Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify is there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US, and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way, because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/redweb, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/redweb now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/redweb, all lowercase. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Uncommon Goods. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible, hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Trevor has told me all about this murder mystery puzzle that he got straight from Uncommon Goods that he is in love with, and he's shopped there for holiday gifts plenty of times. It's a wonderful place, lots of different price categories, so you can shop however you want to shop according to your budget, and I'm excited to dive in myself. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches, so shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the US. They even have gifts you can personalize. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/redweb. That's uncommongoods.com/redweb for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
So in short, we have a few YouTubers who have recorded their calls, and when they talk to them, you have one encounter where the phone says you scheduled a remodeling earlier, and they say yes, and the phone then says for your mother, and the YouTuber says yes, and then the person on the other end says done, hangs up.
Wait, for their mother?
For their mom.
They're YouTubers, so they're probably just lying through their teeth. But
right,
at this point, they're just trying to, possibly meme it up or something.
Yeah. Get attention.
But I wouldn't even mess with that,
Right.
I would try and keep it as far away from the truth as possible.
Exactly.
I'd be like, I don't got a mom.
I just appeared here on Earth. I'm like Superman.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting to this point, though, is that the stories coming from people interacting with the phone calls are now starting to get a little bit more interactive. It's less of a recording and more of a, I'm saying this and responding to you, which I think is fascinating. There's another YouTuber named What Shall We Do Next in 2016 who got a call back. They recorded this and the voice said, you know who this is.
I would have been like, no, I don't. I have no damn clue of who this is.
No, please elucidate.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on, there is somebody who was really interesting, and this was recent in July of 2018. There was a Redditor who was in the No Sleep Out of Character subreddit where you can kind of talk about these stories but not have to keep up the facade of if it's real or not, they can just be themselves. User was named DangerSwan33, and they started receiving these calls, and they thought they were spam calls, just like you were saying. You had that same instinct until they kind of Googled the number and stumbled into the Boothworld Industries story. And so this is a person who says, I was never aware of this story. I never signed up for this. I was never involved in any way. I just started getting these calls, but they did admit to having been on No Sleep. They just hadn't heard this story. And so to me, my personal take is, assuming there's no deeper level to this, is that the user's activity on No Sleep could have offered some sort of vector for whoever was behind this phone number to chase people down, so as to say that just by being in the vicinity of this story, the creator or some ne'er-do-well or what have you was able to then look through social medias connected to it and find real people and find their numbers, which that in and of itself is kind of spooky. Just you being present in this subreddit, maybe they can connect DangerSwan33 to your Instagram, to your name, to your phone number, to your address. And so suddenly this fictional story about a creepy phone call is now reaching you before you even hear about it. And that's just deeply unsettling in general.
Right. I feel like it's an online magician.
Oh, yeah?
Where you're just like, oh my God, how they do that? And then it's just some like, oh, I just kind of looked at your Instagram, and then your Instagram had like information that was public or like, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh my God, it's so terrifying how they find that. And it's just like, oh, there's like a straightforward way that they went through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a mentalist.
Right.
They have their ways of either sussing you out or getting that information ahead of time.
So I feel like that's kind of where it's at, and more so, that's kind of where I'm hoping it's at.
Right. Yes. But this is where seemingly fictional stories appear to cross a threshold into the real world. This is where it was scaring people online to the point that they were dropping out of character, either moving to the out of character subreddit or just literally commenting in the original thread and starting to genuinely worry if this was real or not, asking, hey, no joke, are you the one behind this? Because I'm actually starting to worry that some harm might befall me. Or, this other person who got a call without even really knowing what it was and them being looped in. So either way, again, regardless of it being fictional, we have real world impacts here.
See, this is why you just don't mess with things in the first place.
But sometimes that's the thrill, the thrill of maybe.
I don't know, man. Go to a park and just jump off a swing or something. I'm like, find a different thrill. Like,
that's actually a grete point. Why do you got to go skydiving? We got swings at the park.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like the baby steps. Also, it's the internet, man. There's a ton of people that are doing the things that you want to do, so you could literally just sit back in the safety and comfort and be a viewer and a participant.
Right. I'm a professional witness. I'll go to no sleep. I'll read these stories and I'll go, couldn't be me.
I know so much without actually partaking.
Yeah. Now, this is where I want to jump back a little bit from 2018 back to 2017. Around this time, another strange phone number began making the rounds on YouTube, 801-820-0263. Of course, the same caveat. Don't go calling if you're not interested in having your number out there. But creators would call this number and record their reaction, much like I did with the Happy Valley Dream Survey.
Yeah, you did.
That's up on Patreon if you want to check that out. But just another creepy number that we've talked about in the past. It was mostly referred to as a creepy or cursed phone number, and it's still sort of unclear where this number came from. When you called this number, there was silence before some sort of ethereal or relaxing hold music over top a whispering voice saying numbers one at a time, kind of like a numbers station. It said 11317, 11317, and then it ends with an alarm type sound at the end before hanging up. In this alarm sound, some callers thought they heard or reported hearing screaming, and some people even claim that they heard their own name being told back to them among these screams. The area code for this particular number is actually Utah, but like many others online have pointed out, the possibility of this being a Google Voice number or a VoIP is incredibly possible, and so it could be somebody spoofing. It doesn't actually point to where they are for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find like the source. It's probably pinged off of like 50 different paths,
Yeah. Now, when researching this number, YouTuber Scare Theater had found the earliest mention of this phone number, and it actually came from 2016. There was another YouTube creator named Britty44 or Brittany Crab, and after Crab called Boothworld Industries, she claimed to have gotten a call back as well as a text. The text only contained the very same 801 phone number. So again, I must refer back to Happy Valley Dream Survey because when I called that, I was one of the few people, if only person, that received a text. I couldn't find anywhere on the internet where that anybody got the specific text that I got. And it pointed me to another thing. And I could look at that thing. It was like a company or whatever. And I started looking into that company and I actually responded back, okay, is this some sort of scam then? If it's this kind of weird company over here. So this is where we start to coalesce with Happy Valley. And it almost feels like a very similar mystery, whereas one started as a flyer on various telephone poles in the real world, this began on a mostly fictional subreddit, but then started to manifest in very similar ways.
Man, it's like you almost hope it is a scam thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of just some weird, creepy, list to be on.
Right. I don't want this to be something nefarious. Just have this be, well, if you're calling telephone number 15, then you're definitely gullible and we got something to sell you. Like that.
Right. Yeah.
That actually gives me some comfort because I can understand that.
Yeah, and you could, and like at most it's an annoyance, and you could probably get away from it.
Yeah. So yeah, she called the Boothworld Industries phone number. She got this brand new phone number texted to her. It's hard to say if somebody else got involved, if somebody was spoofing the number, trying to expand this mystery, this story, if it was the original creator or somebody else. We don't really know, but this is where it started to maybe carry into a broader audience. And no one has found out the purpose behind this particular number. And at this point, I believe if you call it, it does go to either a voicemail, so it's like a dead number, or it just goes dead. So either way, because Jillian was being brave, I think she tried to call both numbers and both kind of went kaput, as if they're not live any longer.
God bless y'all's souls for even like attempting to mess around with it, even just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like I'd have to burn my whole identity, wipe it all out. Because it's just like, oh no, man, the internet can be a scary place.
Right. You go up to the FBI and you say, yes, I'd like to apply for witness protection, please. And they go, sure, here, fill out the form. What would you like to, what's the reason for the application? Called a weird number.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. John Stevens, right this way.
And we're like, we got another one called some weird number on the internet. Here we go again.
Yes, okay, we have a specific department for that.
Right.
You're just ushered into a waiting room with a bunch of other people.
This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Privacy Hawk. Having your data exposed is scary. Knowing your private information is out there for anyone to access or buy leads to serious safety concerns and privacy violations. Privacy Hawk's free scan searches thousands of websites and databases to show you who has your data and helps you take action. Your personal information can be on more than 80 different sites, including people's search sites and places you likely didn't even know existed. Privacy Hawk sends formal requests to data brokers on your behalf so your information isn't shared or sold even further. The Platinum plan gives you extra protection like dark web alerts and data breach monitoring, so you know right away if your data is exposed. Trevor has raved to me as well about his experience with Privacy Hawk. They have pulled his personal data and they even flag family members' data so that you can send a request to pull that as well. Again, I am excited to experience it for myself. See where your data is exposed and take steps to stay safe online and protect your privacy. Download the app, get a free privacy scan, and use code RED20 for a special price on the Privacy Hawk Platinum subscription. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shady Rays. Forget the boring gifts this year. Shady Rays makes finding something special for everyone on your list easy. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice this holiday season. I love my pair of Shady Rays. I keep them in the car so I can throw them on while I'm driving. They look great. They're stylish. They're a deep color blue. Love it, and I can't wait to get some more pairs later on. Every pair of shades also comes with lost or broken protection. If those shades ever disappear or get damaged, Shady Rays will replace them, no questions asked. And with a 30-day return policy, gift givers can shop confidently. So give the gift of quality, style, and worry-free wear this season with Shady Rays. Treat yourself or someone special. Go to shadyrays.com and use code RED40 for 40% off 2+ shades. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Now, suffice to say, this story has stuck with a lot of people for a long time, and many people claim that it was just for fun, could have been for a scam in the end, or it just kind of ignited these fears in other people. And it has lasted up until recent years where people continue to talk about it because mysterious phone numbers, as I continue to reference Happy Valley Dream Survey, continue to be cornerstones for a lot of scary stories. Again, like The Ring, it came out around this time, maybe a decade prior, but that's because like with technology, with the internet, with cell phones becoming more common, it kind of became this new vector for preying upon fear. And it might be because that the fears that Bloodworth is playing with are based on common urban legends and very real events that we're going to explore, but themes like fears of death, inescapable fate, helplessness, and being seen or preyed upon by unknown forces, just to name a few. And so even if it did start as a simple story, the fact that it reached out and impacted people in the real world and also had this more tangible effect, I think makes this creepypasta worth talking about. But since this is the exploration of how a fictional tale can do just that, enter the real world, create real impact. Let's explore some of the reality that this story may have drawn from. So the idea of red numbers or cursed phone numbers, we started to dabble with that, but Boothworld Industries touches on a very classic millennial pastime and fear, the idea of calling strange numbers. There are countless urban legends that have sprung up from these ideas of cursed numbers, alongside many joke numbers. I mean, even as a kid, that was one of the pastimes, is just dial random numbers and see what came of it. It was such a novel thing to have a cordless phone in the house, and it was just on the cusp of caller ID. And so people wouldn't know who you were.
Wait, that was a thing?
Wait, you didn't do that?
Hell no, I didn't do that. I wasn't just dialing random ass numbers.
Yeah, you just, you take mom and dad's phone. It's, some day after 4th grade, your pals are over, you're eating too much candy, and you just start dialing away until someone picks up.
That's wild. Never. Nope. Didn't.
That was like the early form of prank calls, or maybe the late stage form of prank calls. I never was brave to say anything, but they would say something.
That's crazy. Y'all just be dialing wild numbers like that.
Yeah.
Can they call it back?
Well, now they can. Star 67?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
They can call it back.
Yeah. My uncle did that one time. He called as Santa, and I did star 67, and it called him back. And then suddenly I was talking to my uncle, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but he then called back to my parents, and he was like, that kid's too smart. He figured it out and broke the, for my little siblings, he wanted to have like the Santa, aura, like the magic of, oh, it's Santa calling. But now with caller ID, you just be like,
yeah,
that's my uncle.
That's uncle. What's up?
But with that, I want to talk about like some stories around some very specific numbers. Some stories claim that dialing 000000000 is the phone number for the dead. Some versions of this story claim that if you connect to this number, it will connect you with the dead, and that perhaps you yourself might die if you call it. In one instance, some Japanese users online have said that they heard footsteps on the other end of the line. And again, a whole unraveling of stories to be had there. But there's another Japanese urban legend around the number called Sadako's number, 090-444-4444. The number 4 is an associated number with death in Japan, as well as many other countries. But because when you read the word 4 in kanji, it is pronounced as shi, which is also the reading for the kanji for death. And so that's the kind of association with 4 and death from the Japanese perspective. Now, if that name sounds familiar, Fredo, because I know you're a horror movie buff, Sadako is the evil entity in the movie The Ring, and she's the one that calls you and whispers 7 days once you watch that cursed tape.
Oh, yeah, hell no.
So apparently there's like a real number based around that. I don't know which one came first, to be honest, but yeah, this just kind of explores the idea that there's something cultural now about this idea. It's cool, but man, it kind of deeply unsettling.
It's just like something that you gotta pass it on to somebody else, and spread it. It's just icky. It's icky.
Very icky.
But what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean? You just sit there and accept your fate? I don't know.
Yeah, what do you like? We just watched Final Destination, so it's on the brain. But I'm thinking, how can we break these rules? But they never do in Final Destination, I guess. So yeah, I just sit there and accept my fate. Make it painless.
Yeah, maybe I just save the world from it, possibly.
Yeah.
Or something. But man, boy, would it be tempting to just be like, oh, I can just pass it on to Christian.
Can you, let's put a stop to this kind of narrative, please.
Just keep passing it on to our boy. Now, before we move into the next kind of real topic that this touches on, there's also the idea of red numbers, which are kind of referred to as killer numbers. Now, these are numbers that when they call you, and this is just going to put more fear into you, Fredo. Millennials abroad, rejoice for not answering your phones ever. But these are numbers that are said that when they call you and you answer, they can emit radio frequencies that can cause hearing loss and even brain hemorrhaging, essentially just damaging you or simply ending your life. So simply picking up the phone call, you'll hear the old AOL dial-up, and maybe your brain melts.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Other versions of this story claim that the numbers appear red on your phone when they call you, and some are cursed or supposedly from hackers, which, honestly, having a hacker involved in your life at this point, that feels like too real.
Yeah, just...
That's the real fear.
Gross. It's just gross.
Now, this is the next chunk of real topic that this story either is touching on or was inspired by, and that's the idea of remodeling coming from obviously the term murder. A caller gives Boothworld someone else's name, that person disappears or is remodeled, as they say. Under the radar, so to speak, contract killings and murders still do occur to this day. In fact, our very first episode, Lake City Quiet Pills, is about that very same topic. If you're new to the task force, I encourage you to go check that episode out. We're probably going to upload it ad-free in December if you want to become a Patreon member. But just suffice to say, that old, what do they call it, wet work of hiring a hitman?
Yep.
Still apparently very much alive.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
And how do you not know that you're being set up? And that's like I don't know, undercover cop or something.
Dude, 100%. 100%. And I want to talk about that. According to the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, quote, in 2019 and 2020, at least 2,700 people in 84 countries were the targets of contract killings linked to organized crime, end quote. In February 2016, a Nevada woman named Christy Lynn Felkins went to the dark web through a Tor browser, we've talked about these in the past, and came across a website called Besa Mafia. This website claimed to be hitmen for hire, and if given a name, location, and the right amount of money, perhaps in Bitcoin, they would assassinate this person for you. Felkins attempted to get her ex-husband killed by the Besa Mafia, and the murder never happened because, well, Besa Mafia, as you rightly had the instincts to point out, Fredo, was actually a scam website. They're just looking for Bitcoin. But she did plead guilty to murder for hire in 2023. According to Dr. Thomas Holt, the director of the Michigan State University School of Criminal Justice, it's actually easier to access sites like this than most people would actually believe, right? One, a Tor browser is not that complicated to get a hold of, and suddenly you're kind of on the dark web. And two, he also points out, if you find a hitman for hire and they're easily found, and they kind of claim that they've done a few of these before in the past, this is very likely to be a scam for Bitcoin or some sort of setup by law enforcement.
Right. It's like, I mean, come on, man. Like, what are you going to, you find someone on Facebook Marketplace and think it's legit?
Right. Like, I'm selling this old furniture and, you know, if you just happen to say the right words, bye-bye, Papa.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. If you just don't happen to want me to squeeze the chicken,
text the word cheese.
yeah.
Cheese. And how much for the cabinet?
Yeah. And there's different tiers, you know, it depends, like tier mozzarella, Gouda.
Whoa, the Gouda tier? Man.
At that point, I'm just looking at that like, what the hell is going on, man?
He starts cracking his knuckles like the Godfather, and he's like, no, I want them to be Swiss cheese.
Swiss, yeah. I wouldn't even, my mind wouldn't even go to Hitman at that point. My mind would go like, is this some kind of weird sexual thing?
Yeah. No, that's loud and clear. Some sort of setup or some sort of scam. But that's where it kind of wraps back into the story, because similar to the fictional Boothworld Industries, most of these real-world contract killers don't advertise their service. They either seek you out, right? They find you, or somehow through this idea of a club, through these cursed numbers, through layers of hidden identity, etc., that you connect together. I wouldn't even begin to know how you go doing that and not get caught by like the CIA or whatever. But either way, this is kind of the two cornerstones in reality, right? Both one, culturally, and two, in a factual, dark part of the world sort of sense, exist. And so I think it answers as to why this story tapped into some primal fears, why it leapt off the page, so to speak, and made people really sweat in their boots. I mean, the reason The Ring was such a big movie is because it tapped into something real, and I think this does something similar.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I do have one more quote before we kind of wrap up. This is from Dr. Holt. He says, quote, "Even if these advertisements aren't real, there's still a sufficient number of ads to suggest that someone out there is paying a portion of these actors. There wouldn't be so many if someone wasn't actually getting paid out of it," end quote. And I think that, to me, beyond there being actual hitmen and beyond the cultural impacts of haunted numbers, that to me, I think, is the real spooky story here, is the fact that there's enough people seeking hitmen that they're stumbling into these scams. The scams are prolific because they're lucrative, because there's enough regular people like Christy Lynn Felkins from Nevada who want to off somebody that these scams are worthwhile. That, I think, is unsettling.
Yeah. You think like, referring to this again, you see the emails of like, oh my goodness, I'm a prince from Nigeria and I need your help and I will in return give you double what you give me. And then it's like,
Done.
yeah. And then some people are like, done, easy, awesome. And it's just like, yeah, no, I mean, look, we make content on the internet. And, I believe that, people like the task force are very much big time consumers in internet content. And when you see things like, oh, this movie tanked and no one liked the Joker 2, or everyone has this opinion about this or that, you have to understand that there's a lot of the world that just doesn't go on the internet as deep as like we do, and whose life doesn't revolve around it.
Right.
And sure, they might do some scrolling, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like they're in the know on everything, and like they just don't know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
The internet gets into these weird little silos where just like everyone hates this, and you could just walk out the street and then go to a bar and talk to people and they'd be like, I don't know what, that's a thing. I didn't even know that was happening. It's like,
absolutely.
You feel like, I don't know, like maybe everyone's like thinks a certain way when like it's really not that at all, because you're just in this silo.
Yeah. And that's where I start to feel like the old man in the room, where, because I remember the internet before algorithms. I remember when it was curated. When you subscribed to 5 people, you saw those 5 people front page. And now a lot of it is pushed to you whether you know them or not. In fact, I would say like something like TikTok, as soon as you follow somebody, they become invisible. You have to go to your follows page to go see them. And so that's what happens now more than ever, is this spooky idea of ending up in echo chambers and bubbles. And you have to proactively think about this. Your guard gets dropped so easy. You go, hold on a second. Am I in an echo chamber? Is this a slice of reality of real culture? Or is this people that ended up in the same kind of microcosm that I'm in because of similar interests? It's fun to geek out over like Lord of the Rings. Like I love that stuff. And so I love getting into those pockets. But at the end of the day, I do get back into the world and hear what the streets are talking about, get in touch with the society as a whole. So that, I think you're onto something too, is it's very easy to not be informed about stuff, and with that comes a lot of its own fears. Oh yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate how like uneducated a lot of people are, and either on the internet or off the internet. That's just kind of the way it is. People see headlines and then go off of a headline. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and then you just have so many people spewing like what they believe to be true, but then have no information on it whatsoever, Right. The countless amount of times, just being an internet personality, countless amount of times that I've, especially in the most recent years, where either through a stream or just like at an event or something like that, someone will say something and I go, oh wow, like where'd you see that from? Then it's like, oh, I saw it on the internet. I'm like, oh, like what were the details? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I just saw it like at a quick glance, and I'll go, oh, okay, you're telling me that this movie is no longer happening, but you just saw it on a maybe, you know what I mean? And even then, it's like the maybe that you saw it on might not even be a reputable like news website, It could be a bot, dude. It could just be a bot, a random Instagram account that does movie stuff, but they don't fact check. And so like, it's just so wild how nowadays people will glance at a headline or hear something and just go, that's fact. That's the way it is. And I'm like, oh man, we just gotta get off the damn internet sometimes. Yeah, I've hit that point. It is a double-edged sword where it can be such an amazing tool for so many things, but also there's times where I'm exhausted. My mind can't move as fast as the internet as a whole. I can't keep up with all the movies and interests and opinions. So at a certain point, it's just worth logging off and going, which is why I kind of like the unknown, because for some reason, it just taps into a little bit of the world, what could be, what is, what isn't. I don't know. That's why sometimes I just look up at the stars and go, where's my hot alien wife? Yeah, bring it back. You know what I'm saying? Where them strong thighs to comfort me at night. Just squeeze my head like a melon till it pops. When the spaceship in the background, just going, damn. Maybe someday, Look, man, when that alien spaceship drops, the doors open, this bright light, and you see the silhouette of a caked up alien walking towards you, telling you that they could take you away from all of this. You're going. Maybe they're orchestrating this just so I'm begging for it, They're up above it all going, oh, they're going to come clamoring now. And
They're
I'm
gonna
like,
come clamoring to our
you
thighs.
can do a lot less.
That guy right there, that host of the Red Web podcast, he's clamoring for these thighs right now.
Oh, he's dripping, drooling. But with that bombshell, Task Force, thank you all so much for enjoying another episode. I hope you enjoyed.
Wow, that was it.
I'm just forcing it upon them. I had to save myself from this conversation. But Task Force, thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Red Web. I hope you enjoy the holidays to come. Lots coming out of us at patreon.com/redweb, store.redwebpod.com. But also, I just hope you enjoy a safe and wonderful time with your family here in the holidays. I want to go ahead and say that in December, because we will be doing the same thing, having time off with our families, we will not be posting an episode on December 23rd and December 30th. So you won't have new episodes there, but if you want to scratch that itch, again, we will be dropping daily ad-free episodes over at Patreon. So there will still be something happening in our Red Web universe. But otherwise, the holidays are upon us. And yet, Fredo, I'll see you right back here next Monday for yet another mystery.